Good morning, this is Shindo. This is a very long article, so I'm going to get right into it. How the Mormon Church victimizes rape victims. Provo, Utah, CNN. The horror of rape or sexual assault is traumatizing enough for any victim, but for multiple young women at Brigham Young University, they claimed they received backlash instead of support after reporting sexual violence to the school. Brooke's nightmare began in February 2014 when she was a freshman. She said she had taken hallucinogenic drugs just before being assaulted. She was with a group of guys in an off-campus apartment. She admitted that she took the drugs voluntarily, thinking everyone else was going to do them too, but she said she ended up being the only one. Her voice shook slightly as she described feeling sick as the acid started to take effect. Then she said she was pulled into the bedroom. Quote, "He started like touching me and stuff, so I tried to get up and leave, and then right when I was leaving, two other guys came in and grabbed me and were like, 'You can't leave,' and then they shut the door and locked it," unquote, Brooke said. Brooke, who does not want her last name to be made public, alleges that the three men, quote, "did stuff to her," and, quote, "then the other two left, and it was just the main guy, and basically over the course of the next 45 minutes in different ways he raped me," unquote, she said. When her alleged attacker left, Brooke grabbed a blanket and ran from the apartment to get help. Police responded and took her report. 10 days later, she decided not to move forward with any charges, afraid of reliving the horror over and over again through the often long and arduous trial process. However, Brooke told her story to BYU's Title IX office, which handles student sexual harassment and sexual violent investigations. She said her rapist was a student, and she wanted to make sure he didn't victimize anyone else. Quote, "I thought there was going to be some mercy, unquote, Brooke said. Quote, "I told them everything, and because of the fact that I was on drugs, they used that reason to kick me out of school after reporting it," unquote. The Honor Code. The university, which is run by the Mormon Church, determined that Brooke had violated its Honor Code, a student code of conduct, a moral compass that prohibits students from engaging in and off-campus activities such as drug and alcohol use, premarital sex, and even going into the bedroom of someone of the opposite gender. Upon enrollment, students agreed to, quote, "live a chaste and virtuous life," unquote, demonstrating the values, quote, "encompassed in the gospel of Jesus Christ," unquote. University spokesman Carrie Jenkins admittedly defends the school's policy and treatment of alleged victims such as Brooke, saying, quote, "A student would never, never, never have an honor code review for reporting sexual assaults, for being a victim of sexual assault," unquote. While Jenkins wouldn't comment on any specific case, she said it would be an, quote, "egregious violation," unquote, that would prompt an honor code investigation stemming from details revealed in a sexual violence report. But Brooke isn't the only one who says she was disciplined after making a rape report. Maddie Barney said that she too suffered repercussions after her police report ended up in BYU's hands. Barney, who agreed to be named, told Provo police her alleged rape in September when she was a sophomore. She had no intention of reporting it to the university since it happened off campus, and her alleged attacker wasn't a student. Quote, "I waited about 4 days to report because I was scared of my standing at BYU," unquote, Barney said. Quote, "I remember sitting at the police station sobbing on the bench. I was just sitting there crying, saying, 'I don't want to report. I can't do this. What if BYU finds out?'" Unquote. Barney was shocked when she got a call from the university telling her it had her police report. While Jenkins says students, quote, "can choose to decline a Title IX investigation," unquote, Barney said she was told that if she didn't comply, the university was going to forward her case to the Honor Code's office. Quote, "I felt so angry. I mean, here she had an over 20-page police report with every little detail of the rape," unquote, Barney said. Quote, "I feel almost as violated by the school as I do by my rapist," unquote. Barney said she now faces backlash from BYU for not answering all of its questions. Her attorney told her not to talk about the details of her case until after the trial of her alleged rapist this fall. However, the university won't let her register for future classes until she cooperates with the Honor Code office. Quote, "They like to say a victim of sexual assault will never be referred to the Honor Code office for being a victim of sexual assault," said Barney. Quote, "But they would never known about this Honor Code allegations had I chosen not to report my rape, and I think that's what bothers me and makes me feel so betrayed," unquote. When asked about this, Jenkins said, quote, "BYU cannot comment on individual cases because of federal guidelines," unquote. However, she said, quote, "Every Honor Code review is done on a case-by-case basis with the facts and circumstances taken into consideration." More victims come forward. For Madam McDonald, the worst part was feeling like the school didn't believe her. She said she was sexually assaulted by a man she met online when she was a freshman at BYU in 2014. She agreed to meet him for coffee. Instead, she said he drove her to the mountains near campus, which is in the town of Provo. Once there, he did, quote, "everything but rape," unquote, her, she said. Quote, "He went straight up to the line, but because he didn't actually rape me, there wasn't a rape kit for me to get," unquote, McDonald said. When she reported her assault and met with BYU's Title IX coordinator, Sarah Watzerberg, McDonald said the response was far from sympathetic. She told me, quote, in her opinion, almost all of the reported rapes and assaults at BYU are false reports made by women that feel morally bad after they've had consensual activities," unquote, McDonald recalled. CNN made multiple requests for an interview with Westerberg, which were denied. Jenkins responded to McDonald's claim. Quote, "I have shared this comment with Sarah Weisberg, and she has confirmed that there is no truth to that statement, nor has she ever said it to a student," unquote. BYU's investigation evidently concluded that McDonald was indeed sexually assaulted, but McDonald left that first meeting full of self-doubt and fear. Margot Crandell knows the feeling all too well. While a junior at BYU in 2014, she was raped by a man who stalked her online. He had obtained an indecent photo of Crandall and blackmailed her into meeting him. Crandall vividly remembers feeling scared of being judged, or worse, being blamed. Quote, "I was just scared of anyone finding out. I was scared of BYU finding out," unquote, she said. Quote, "I feel really shameful about it," unquote. She spent 2 years in and out of court and took a break from school to heal physically and emotionally. Her rapist was convicted in August and sentenced to 5 years to life in prison. She never told BYU about the rape, but somehow the school found out, Crandall said. After the trial was over and Crandall was ready to start school again, she said she had to sit down with the Title IX office to answer questions about her rape and show them the conviction documents. Quote, "As soon as I found out it had gone to trial and they verified that it had been convicted, that's when they met me and offered me the accommodations," unquote, of allowing her to withdraw and re-enroll, she said. Crandall wonders whether she was treated better than others because her father is a professor at the school or because her criminal trial had already taken place. But her heart aches for other BYU sexual assault victims who weren't treated as well. Quote, "It makes me sick," said Crandall. Quote, "That makes me so sad," unquote. Calls for change. The pressure is mounting on BYU to make policy changes, especially as the topic of how colleges handle sexual violence on campus has been a hot-button issue, not just in Provo, but nationwide. As of April 20th, the U.S. Department of Education has 224 open sexual violence cases under investigation, 178 post-secondary institutions. There's no cases at BYU being investigated as of April. Barney hoped to change that. She had filed a complaint against BYU with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. She also helped craft an online petition using the university to give, quote, immunity to those who make sexual violence reports and not investigate them for honor code violations. More than 100,000 people have signed the petition. Last week, dozens of current and former students gathered at BYU with members of the greater Salt Lake City community to protest, holding signs that read, quote, BYU, protect victims, don't shame them, unquote. They marched through campus to deliver the petition and signatures to school administrators. Brett Webb, BYU's academic vice president, met with the group and assured them that University President Kevin Worthington is committed, quote, to study this issue carefully and welcomes input both within the university and outside. Jenkins said the study will look at the relationship between the Title IX office and the Honor Code office. Quote, we want to look at whether or how the information is shared. We want to look at the perception the students have, unquote, she said. Quote, it is not a perception, it's something that's actually happening, and that them, again, not believing us, unquote, Barney said, quote, they need to take accountability. They need to say, quote, yeah, we screwed up, but we're going to fix it. Now, as a former Mormon myself, I can tell you that obviously this church in particular, the Christian church in general, folks, but this church in particular, which if people believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins and was resurrected 3 days later, they're a Christian. By the way, in case you wonder whether a Mormon is Christian. Of course they are. This church in particular is extremely misogynistic. I have had a woman, and it was said to me in confidence, so I won't go into detail, but I had a woman who told me once that she had been sexually assaulted, raped by someone within the Mormon church she was young, she was a teenager when it happened, and he was one of these youth pastors. Let me tell you something about these youth pastors, regardless of what church they're in. They're a bunch of sicko pervert creeps. To make a long story short, in her case, she reported it to her parents, and her parents had it handled within the church. This guy never went to the father of this teenage girl, never even took this to the police. This is common practice among these kind of folks. They protect their own. They're a bunch of sick, craven perverts. And if you think that they don't have Bible backing, well, let's look at Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28 through 29. If a man is caught in the act of raping a young woman who is not engaged, he must pay 50 pieces of silver to her father. Then he must marry the young woman because he violated her, and he will never be allowed to divorce her. So according to the laws of the Bible, many of you, if not most of you Christians, say that everything in the Bible is true, even the Old Testament. According to the laws of the Bible, a rape victim in this case must marry her rapist. Continuing in Deuteronomy, it gets worse. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 23 through 24. If within the city a man comes upon a maiden who is betrothed, and has relations with her, you shall bring them both out of the gate of the city, and there stone them to death. The girl, because she did not cry out for help, though she was in the city, and the man, because he violated his neighbor's wife. So, in this case, the rape victim is stoned to death. You know what makes me angry is that I speak, and Lucy speaks up against the Christian church because of this kind of crap. And then we're told that we're the haters, we're the horrible people. Your church, its structure is based on demonic evil, Christians. And every chance I get, I will continue, and Lucy will continue to speak against you until the day comes when no one remembers who you are. Looking forward to that day when I'm asked by my grandchildren, what exactly was the Christian church, Grandpa? This is Shindo. Have a good day.